this section, we'll be learning how to flash the LED on an Uno. Now, this is showing you how to do it using TurboCoder. You've probably already used the Blink example in the Arduino program. This shows you a different way of doing it that's consistent with the more advanced programs you'll be creating using TurboCoder. So might seem a little bit more complicated than needed, but by learning it at this stage, the structure at this stage where it's easy and familiar, it'll help you for learning the more complicated stuff that's coming up. Okay, so we're going to do flashing an LED on an Uno. To do that, we go down and click on the Setup tab. This takes us to another sheet in the spreadsheet, and you'll remember that in the previous lesson we were on this sheet and we used it to make a copy and authorize the macros, the running of macros. Okay, but here now, the first thing you do is to eliminate things that you don't want to have included. You'll see there are a lot of options, and depending on what you last did, there may be things highlighted. And so go through. The only thing that should be highlighted is the X in the general area. Sorry. Oh boy. And this adds the structure to the code of like setup and some general comments. And so you want to have an X there always. And the red LED, we're going to put an X on. I'm going to just erase it first and show you what happens when it's a blank box. Oh, I erased it by clicking on the minus here. But now if I highlight this box here and say, or click on that, it brings up a series of questions, and there's a general structure to it. In front of the colon is the name of the factor we're dealing with, which in this case is the red LED. To the right from the colon is the name of the variable that we're trying to set. So this is the pin. And above the box, it's the current setting for that variable, or the number 13 here. And within the box, it's where you can add a number, or you can add, it's actually text to change that setting. But if you just want to leave it as it is, 13 in this case, just click on OK. Now this is asking for the number of flashes. It says it wants to do 10. That's OK. The on milliseconds, it says 400, which is 400 milliseconds, or a little under half a second. Let's bump this up to something larger. So we're going to make this 1,500 milliseconds, or a second and a half. And now we say off milliseconds. This is the dark time between the light times. So let's make this 300. Oops, 300. And we say OK. Okay, so that configures that factor, but now we haven't made the Arduino code. To make the Arduino code, we're going to click on this Start Macro button and wait a little while. So I just clicked on that. You see it comes up, says running the script, and you'll see it flashing, showing a couple of the spreadsheets as it's working and collecting data and moving it around. But what you're waiting for is for this blue button to go away and it to be back to the code area, or to the code area. All right, so this is it now. It's blue in much of it because it's already highlighted the code that was generated, and only that. Oh, no, it's got to go down to the end of code. Right. All right. Still a problem there. Anyway, so we'll just show this is the code. I like this format better than the Arduino program because it has different colors here, and the indentation is clearer. So I'm just going to go through this briefly to show the structure, and you'll be seeing the structure over and over and over again and become very familiar with it. There's a title line up here that says what you used and when you used it to make your code. There's a comments section which has included factors, and it shows what you chose. It doesn't put down the general section because we know that's always there. the libraries, no libraries used for the LEDs, the constants. Generally, there's a section here for hardware, and there'll be a section that says, that gives sort of a title for that section of hardware. So we're now saying it's pin 13 for the red LED, and this comment here, this stroke V, says that we changed something, or we entered a value which was placed into this line. So remember, we put a 13 for the pin, and it took that value and it substituted, it dropped it right into this line here. Now we had no objects used, and the variables section, we have this Boolean run demo 2f equals true, tf equals true. And this is a variable that controls whether the demo is going to be run once or it's going to be run over and over again continuously. We'll see that down in the loop area being called. So now in the setup area, there's standard setup structure. All the left and right brackets are put in for you automatically, and it dropped in the pin mode comment, or the pin mode function, and use this pin, the red LED, and cause it to be an output. This is all standard here. Now down in the loop area, it's just 3 lines. It says, well, the two brackets, and then here, if run demo tf equals true, then run the demo. So this calls a function called run demo that's down here. And you'll see as you're developing code using TurboCoder, this is where these are places where the changes happen, down in the run demo area. And loop doesn't change much at all. Events and interrupts, you won't be using this area until you get in some sophisticated programming concepts like quadrature encoders and trapping button events and other things. Okay, so other routines, this has the run demo in it, and run demo is a very short program. In this case, it establishes the name of a variable which isn't used in this example, but then it puts in a section of code associated with the factor that you selected. So this is going to say something about flashing the red LED. And here's a standard for loop that says it's going to happen while I is equal to 0, and it's while I is less than 10. So this is running 10 times, and I is incremented once with each run in the loop. But we don't use this I value at all in this demo. So what happens in the loop here is the digital write high that turns on the LED. Then it delays for the 1500 milliseconds. And you notice the stroke V here, and that you'll remember we entered that number there. And then after that's over, it turns it off, and it delays for 30. And then when it's done, it runs the demo and goes back up here into the loop. So essentially the loop is going down, jumps down and does this, jumps back up here, and then jumps back down, and that's all that the code does. Okay, so let's now highlight this code here, and taking it down to the end of code, I'm going to do copy, Control C, or go edit, copy, and now I'm going to open up Arduino. Now, clearly it'll be different on your computer. This is a Windows machine. And if we just open this up, and I'm going to do edit, select all, or I could type Control A, but you wouldn't see it. I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to do paste. And now this pasted the code that we just generated. You see, this is the date, the factors that we talked about, and all of this. And now, if you've selected the tools, what the board is, the Arduino Uno, and the port. Now I don't have one plugged in, so I'm not actually going to blink the light. I'll leave that for you to do. But you would select the port and have the connection to that. And then let's just compile it here, or verify. And looking at this area down here, compiling sketch, You see it's done compiling, no errors. I like to look at the amount of dynamic memory left and the program storage, and as these numbers are small percentage, there are no issues here. And so we could upload it at this point if we wanted to, and we could save it and do whatever. Okay, so this is the end of this section.